All right, guys, Eric Paul's in here with 9 to 5 Sports. Going to be getting into the Travelers Championship here for you. Going to be talking about some ownership leverage. Pretty much just going over the projected ownership, kind of telling you what it looks like on the slate. Is there anyone over-owned or, under-owned? And then we're going to be getting into some outright bets. We're going to be getting into some first-round leader bets. And then also, with the first-round leader bets, it goes hand-in-hand with Showdown picks. So we'll begin into that as well. So I do want to start off with the ownership leverage. Should be a pretty easy one, so let's get into it. So the thing about the ownership leverage this week is that really there's no one like over-owned or under-owned, and that is kind of the problem this week, is that everyone's kind of properly owned, which has kind of been the case the last 3 weeks. I think, I don't want to say I'm having an influence on ownership, but the way people are looking at these plays is starting to make more logical sense the last 2 weeks. And maybe that's just because these fields are loaded and, there hasn't been any like random chalk like there was, a few times this year. Off the top of my head, I can think of Brooks Koepka, the Aaron Wise week, the Patrick Reed week. There have been these kind of random chalk weeks where, we're not exactly seeing that this week. So, let's just go over it. Like Webb Simpson, I completely get it why he's kind of getting this much ownership. 12% ownership at 8.5 is starting to get to be a little bit too much to me. But he is a really strong golfer on these shorter tracks. And I think that's the appeal to him. Let's see. I'm going to try to pull him up here on this new cheat sheet that some of you guys have seen, just to see what he was specifically for the short tracks. I'm going to go into the specialist here. Click off of fantasy projections. Let's go with length. So that's not really that good in the field over his last 10 starts is what we're looking at. 71st in the field. That's not that good. So let's just look at specialists maybe overall. 43rd best specialist. So I think people are just really actually trying to go with, if you do look further back though, his short track performance is much better than that. And he has sucked this year. So that could really be why people are trying to hope that he is finding, his typical career form that he, typically has been in. But we look over his last few starts, they have not been good. 65th, 27th, 20th, 59th, 35th. They are getting better, but at the same time, he's not the same Webb that he used to be. Whether that's, the neck injury still, what was it? The Sony Open. I still remember that. Just like watching his swing, I'm like, something's a little off with Webb. It was weird. He's been able to battle through it. He's been able to make cuts. I do expect him to make the cut, but just how much upside is he going to give someone at that price tag? The next one's going to be Matthew Naismith, who I also do like a decent amount this week, but at the same time, do you have to play him? No, but 6% is not too much. Joel Damon is very interesting to me as well. I do like Joel Damon a decent amount this week as well, but he's only ranking out as the 46th best player in the 9 to 5 model. The thing that we're seeing here is a lot of the golfers that played well last week that were values, Denny McCarthy, Joel Damon, they all saw some like price bumps, whereas some of the other ones didn't really see price bumps. You look at Adam Schenk, you look at Bo Hosler, guys that had just as good of weeks are still cheaper. I know Damon and McCarthy have much better make cut percents, but it's kind of interesting that some of the golfers that had good weeks last week that were value plays got a really big price bump, and some of them did not. Joel Damon, he said on XM Radio that he does really like this tournament, or he does feel like his golf game is coming into really good form to this golf tournament, and he does feel like this is a course that suits his game as well. So just something I thought I'd throw out to you guys, but we can see no one really overowned. Like Brian Harman starting to get a little bit overvalued at 15%, but not crazy. His minimum return value point at that price point, at that projected ownership, is a top 65 finish. And that's the thing. It's like no one is like really too crazily overowned, which suggests that they have to have a really good finish. And so I'm just going to look at total projected ownership. Who is the highest projected home player on the slate? So, Patrick Cantlay, you could argue, is under-owned. Is he going to get a top 20 finish? I think so. So the data thinks so. So at the same time, he's still a little bit under-owned. Look at Sanjay M. Is he going to get a top 10 finish? Maybe not. Maybe that's where you decide not to play him. He is a strong play. I do like him this week. I do expect him to bounce back, but maybe you don't have to play Sanjay M at 18% ownership. The leverage rank, 23rd. 23rd, that's not that great, but where we're trying to find maybe slight edges here, like with the price points, maybe that's something you go with. Like for me, Neiman does make a little bit more sense, a little bit safer as well. I'd much rather pay up for Xander. I think he's going to be in contention. Jordan's okay, a little bit. I don't want to say safer, but surprising that he's not getting as much value. I guess it's okay with Sanjay, but still, like not chalk that I'm really trying to eat. For me personally, without going with the data, I'm trying to get on Patrick Cantlay. I'm trying to get on Xander Schauffele. I'm trying to get on Sam Burns. So I love the fact that Sam Burns is currently looking like he's under owned. So is Rory, and this is kind of the theme lately, is that the pricing and all these golfers are such strong plays each week that there's no real big edge. So we're seeing all the ownership kind of get spread out amongst these top tier players. So with that, they're all pretty much under-owned, and we're not getting too many over-owned players. And that's where I think people are finally starting to, I guess, not go with the group thought as much lately with ownership, I guess. I'm sure that time will come again, but right now we're seeing all the top golfers are pretty much under-owned. Like HV3, that's a great one, guys. I think HV3 at 9K at under 10% ownership, that's a great name to get on. I really like him. I don't think we have to play Tommy Fleetwood. I don't love Tommy Fleetwood. Cameron Tringale is interesting as well. 7% ownership. He's a guy that has terrible course history. Let me pull up Cameron Tringale's course history because it's bad. I mean, it is bad. Basically 4 straight miscuts. But we can see 21st best stat running play, 23rd best recent form. And that is really the theme this week, is that there's a ton of great or what would be great plays if they just had good course history. And we don't have that with a lot of golfers, and he's one of them. Even Davis Riley a little bit under-owned. So we can see like there's not too many golfers that are just over-owned or like any stayaways really. So I don't think we have to spend too much more time on this. Like if we are building with the PGA lineup builder, and just to show you guys this real quick, like you can go into settings, like max exposure typically would be like 35% for me. I don't want more than, I guess, 35% of a player. And maybe that's something I adjust because the core plays have been really good so far this season. But total max ownership, like I don't think we have to go with like 90% total max ownership. Okay, actually, maybe we want to get a decent amount of chalk. So maybe we want to raise up the minimum ownership of the lineup. Maybe we even go up to 70. Like I don't think we have to worry about like chalk too much. And I don't think we have to worry about like having to diversify too much. So if you are like max entering, I think this would be a great way to go about doing it. If you want unique players in there, you can add 3, you could add 4. Like there's ways to go around that. And this is just a week where no one's too chalky just yet. That can always change, this pending change, but I think that'd be the way I go with. And just out of curiosity, let's see who it's pulling up. We got 20. We'll do 20 real quick just to see who it's pulling up. Scoot this over for you. Aaron Wise, Todd, and Brennan Todd. Okay, Mackenzie Hughes, Mito, Maverick McNeely. Interesting. So you can see all the golfers that they're pulling up here. Jonathan Vegas, that's interesting. Jason Day, interesting. Like some of these guys are all right, but this is definitely, we can see the theme here. It's going more with the fair and balanced approach for sure. For sure. Okay, so now we're going to segue into betting picks here. We'll start off with my favorite outright bets, and then we will be getting into the showdown stuff. So just looking it over, this is where it gets interesting for me because last week, I think I would have to double check, but I think it was like of the top 10 players that are in contention, like Rory, Zalatoris, John Rahm, Scotty. Who else was there? Hideki. Like those guys were all rated top 10 in the win rank, whereas Matt Fitzpatrick was like 25th. Okay, and that's just because he hasn't won, And in the 9-to-5 model, he was like the 8th best play. He was the 8th best play in the 9-to-5 model. And that, for those guys that don't know, the model is geared up to both chase safety and upside. And that's typically why, those players tend to make the cut a little bit more. And they tend to, if you keep putting yourself in a spot to win, they typically are going to be on top of the leaderboard. And that's really what I go for with the core plays, where this win rank, it's all about capturing upside. We kind of just ignore miscuts in there, and we kind of just measure, hey, when this golfer's on, what are the chances that they're going to win? So we can see for this week, Sam Burns, Patrick Cantlay, 1 and 2, Rory 3, JT 4, Sky Scheffler 5, Xander 6, Son James 7, Jordan Spieth 8th, Seamus Power 8th. And that one kind of stuck out to me. Seamus Power at 8, the most likely to win, is a decent play. And he's someone that really stuck out to me, and I'll show you guys why here as well. So Seamus Power, to me, is one of those golfers that very much could do what Matt Fitzpatrick did last week, where he's someone that could finally put it all together. We can see over his last, 6 starts here, if we want to get into that. 12th, 80th, 9th, 17th. So he has had those upside finishes. And the thing that I really like about him is, we'll click off of recent form. We'll get into course history here. His course history is pretty solid. I mean, 4 straight make cuts, or 3 straight make cuts, sorry. And they've all been getting pretty much better. That's why I like to see like top 20 finish, 36th place finish, 66th place finish, making the cut, but also showing us that upside. We can see top 20 stat fit, top, 30 in recent form rank, course history, overall top 10 play in the 9 to 5 mile. He is someone that should give us safety and should give us upside. We have seen him win. We have seen him be in contention. So yeah, he is someone that I think is going to be a decent outright bet for you this week. Then we'll get back into oops. There we go. We'll get back into this. So, from there, what I really do like, I do really like Sam Burns as an outright. I do really like Patrick Cantlay as an outright. And I also do really like Xander Schauffele as an outright. I know their odds are not great. They're all like 18 to 1 or 20 to 1. But I think they're going to be in contention. And then from there, I do like Davis Riley or Mito Pereira to be in contention. I kind of just expect Mito to bounce back a little bit more. So I really don't mind him as an outright bet. So far, Mito, Seamus Power, Cantlay, Burns, Xander. That's what I really like. And then to get crazy with it, and I don't really want to say this, but I'm going to. Like Brendan Steele, I don't mind as an outright bet. He's fine. 65 to 1. He's one of those golfers that I could see putting it all together. Definitely more of a number bet there. But Beau Hossler, I mean, he's not great as a play. I'll tell you that much right now. But Beau Hossler could be decent. I'm going to pull him up here for you. So he was a Monday qualifier, and he's a golfer that has been very much hit or miss. Okay. But he has played well at this tournament. 2 top 10 finishes over the last 4 years. And that kind of echoes with what we're seeing for his recent form. I don't know if you guys remember, but I vividly remember him being in contention at that Texas-based event. I forget which one it was now. One of the Texas event recently. In contention to win. Had an all-time worst bunker shot where he sculled it like 40 yards over the green. It was a par 5. His third shot, like 20 yards from the green, and he sculls it like 40 yards past the green into the trees. Had to take a drop. All-time worst shot. He should have won that tournament. He didn't. It was an all-time choke job. But with that, we're going to get a golfer that, possibly could win now this week. Decent stuff here from him. Like 53rd place finish last week. Not great. Let's see here. 16th, 40. Where is it popping up here? Oh, 32nd, 21st, 69th, 17th, 153rd, 106. Like missing bad cuts. We see that. But we also have seen some upside finishes. Top 20 finishes right here. Top 25 finish, top 20 finish. Like there have been good starts mixed in there. Just whether or not we can figure it out. And this was the event. So 15 events ago, he was in contention. That's the worry. So Beau Hossler, decent. I think chase the upside type of long shot bet. 150 to 1 right now is currently what he's at. You can roll with that if you want to. If you want to bet him to top 10 instead, you can. Like obviously we're chasing the number here. We're trying to get lucky. That's really what this is. This isn't like an educated bet. This is more of a, let's hope to get lucky bet. And I also do like Tyler Duncan at 300 to 1. I've kind of talked about him a decent amount. One, I think he's really cheap for a guy that, probably will make the cut this week. 4 straight made cuts at this tournament. He's a golfer that typically, he can go low. He can shoot low numbers. When a course is a longer track, he's just not going to be someone that produces. But at these shorter tracks, he has a much better chance to make the cut. So I really don't mind Tyler Duncan at 300 to 1. If you want to bet him to top 40, that's going to be a much better bet. Much better bet, obviously, okay? This is just a bet where you try to get lucky. That's really all it is, okay? And that's really what I'm trying to accomplish with my outright bets for you guys is give you guys some names that could pop. could pop. And it's up to you guys what you guys want to do with it from there, okay? So now we're going to get into the betting sheet once again, but we're going to talk about first round leader, probably what you guys all came here for. So Rory last week, oh, that was so painful. On 18, he bogeyed. He bogeyed 18 to not have the first round lead. I was feeling pretty good about that. And then Adam Hadwin had to come in and have the first round lead all to himself. So he came close to the first round lead last week. That was fine. This week, it's kind of interesting because the PGA Tour weather is suggesting that there's going to be AM rain, but there's not really going to be too much wind this week. So, like, how much of an advantage does the AM tee times have? You know, that's what we have to see. Because right now, it doesn't really seem like they're going to have a huge advantage. So just going off of the AM only tee times here. And the thing with the weather is it's like with that AM rain, is it going to soften up the greens to make it much easier for these golfers to fire at pins and they can go a little bit score or lower? You know, we did see that with round 2 of the US Open where there's a little bit of afternoon rain and that led to some lower scoring for the golfers that had the AM and tee times. Like, could we see that for round 1 here with the softer greens in the AM and then throughout the day they dry up? Possibly. You know, that's something you could roll with. And typically speaking, like, it's just easier to go with AM tee time only type players. It's not saying that someone from the PM can't go low, but it's typically more likely for the AM guys to get there. And if anything, it just helps you reduce your player pool. So just looking at Rory, number 1. That's simple and easy to see. He's been a stud in round 1. Really almost had the first round lead in pretty much 3 straight events. So really good there. Mito Pereira, man, he has been so close to having the first round lead a bunch of times this year. So it's no shock that he is top 5 there. Typically just a strong round 1 scorer. I think he makes a lot of sense both in Showdown and first round lead. We look at someone like Davis Riley, kind of the same thing. Just hasn't popped as much as Mito, but still pretty good. Like, Mito's been close to having the first round lead, where Davis Riley just has some, you know, solid first rounds. Still, both of them great Showdown plays. Then we get into Sungjae Im 9th. You know, we can see the drop off here starting to happen. Sungjae Im, I don't mind. I don't know if I want to do a first round leader bet on him though. He's just like one of those golfers that's just a solid golfer through and through. Whereas like Rory, Mito, and even Davis Riley a little bit, they have low rounds in them. They're just not consistent enough round to round just yet. Whereas Sungjae Im is very much consistent round to round. And that's kind of the problem with Xander Schauffele. Although I did do a first round leader bet on him, Xander is much more of a very consistent golfer round to round. I know round 3 in the front 9, he kind of sucked, obviously, but for the most part, round to round, he's pretty solid. It's really just like in between rounds where it's just like, what are you doing? That's the roller coaster rounds in between rounds, but you typically can battle through that. Harold Varner, I don't mind, but really where I don't mind, so let's just count this out. So Rory's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Chad Ramey is in that coveted 8 spot, that Wyndham Clark 8 spot. I'm going to click Chad Ramey this week. Okay, I'm also going to click Salik Tagala as well, who's 9th, most likely to have the first round lead of AM tee time golfers. Okay. Long shots there, obviously. I think they're both around like 100 to 1, which obviously I'm betting these because I still regret the not clicking on Wyndham Clark. You know, what's an extra whatever unit on a bet when the return can be really, really good when it's a long shot bet like that? You know, I'm fine with that. I'm going to do that. So I really don't mind Chad Ramey, Salik Tagala. If there's going to be AM, you know, weather advantage, these two guys could easily, you know, get there. But just looking at the full slate, like Patrick Cantlay's there, Joaquin Niemann's there, Scotty Scheffler's there, Aaron Wise, Sam Burns. We see Seamus Power popping up there. And then a bunch of the golfers in the midsection are there as well, like Aaron Rye, I really don't mind. Denny McCarthy, I don't mind. Joel Damon, I don't mind. These are all golfers who I just don't mind as first round leader bets, but it's tough to find like a big edge there. So typically speaking, I just like to go with AM tee times, and that's kind of going to be my approach this week. So I did remember this week, finally, I'm going to make a bad chalk build, and then I'm going to begin out of here, okay? So let's pull it up. We're going to get into the PGA dashboard. Then we're going to go into the lineup tool. And so what I've been doing is I just sort by like who's the most overowned. So we can see based off of this red slider here, Just bring the player's name in a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So like Brennan Steele, kind of overowned a little bit, but not too bad. Brian Harman, obviously, we kind of said he was a little bit overowned. So the problem with this is I want to be targeting these golfers that are a little bit overowned that say, hey, we probably don't need to play them. And so that's kind of the issue right now, is that there's not a lot of those golfers. Zoom it out a little bit for you there. There we go. It's like Webb we can go with as well. So Webb, Harman, Todd is what we're at right now. But we're only at 40% projected ownership. I'm not sure we can get higher than that. Let's go Joel Damon. He's a little bit overowned as well. So once again, the point of the bad chalk build is to try to make, I guess, like the worst build at the highest projected ownership based off of golfers who are being overvalued that we can DFS. That's the goal. So maybe Sungjae Im, just to get that ownership level up there, like 68%. Can we get to 80%? I really want to get to 80%. Let's see if we can do that. I mean, Siwoo, I don't hate Siwoo as a play, but, we're not at 80% projected ownership. I think this is going to be the closest we're going to get. Like these golfers have been made cut makers, so the 6 for 6% is 74% chance to make the cut. But we look at stuff like course history rank, not that good. Stat rank, 40th, not that good. I mean, that's pretty bad. Recent form rank, 30th. Model rank, 32nd. Like, that is just not that good. You could easily make a much better build than that. But that is all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this video, please give me a like and subscribe. I do appreciate that. If you guys want to join 9 to 5 Nation, the best value in PGA DFS, $10 a month, do so. The link is in the description below. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and as always, let's keep cashing.